updates in regards to this situation. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu is urging members of the Druze community not to cross into Syria. He warned they risk being killed or kidnapped and could disrupt IDF operations. This comes after dozens already crossed the border amid escalating violence in Syria's Sweida region. Let's have a look at what the Israeli Prime Minister said about the situation.
אנחנו פועלים גם בסוריה היום, מהבוקר. יש לנו מחויבות לשמור על אזור דרום מערב סוריה כשטח מפורז בגבול ישראל. אנחנו לא נרשה לחזור למצב שמקיימים לנו שם לבנון שנייה. ואנחנו גם מחויבים לשמור על התושבים הדרוזים. אנחנו עושים זאת באמצעות פעולות עצימות. אני מקווה שלא נצטרך לפעול יותר. זה תלוי מאוד במה שמבינים וגם עושים וגם לא עושים.
Syrian security forces have been deployed across Sweida, setting up checkpoints and inspecting vehicles. Israel's Foreign Minister Gideon Saar says Israel will defend its interests in Syria, including protecting the Druze community. He condemned what he called murder and pogroms against minorities. Let's have a look at what the Israeli Foreign Minister said.
אנחנו רואים פה תופעה שחוזרת על עצמה של התנכלות למיעוטים עד כדי רצח ופוגרומים בסוריה. לפעמים זה כוחות המשטר, לפעמים זה מיליציות ג'יהאדיסטיות שהם הבייס שלהם. אם המשטר בדמשק לא יתעשת על עצמו, הוא בסופו של דבר יתרחק מכל היעדים המרכזיים שהוא הציב לעצמו, ובראשם משילות והשגשוג הכלכלי. ולכן טוב שתהיה התעשתות והשבת הסדר על כאן.
International reactions are now mounting after Israel strikes in Syria. The US envoy for Syria is urging all sides to step back amid escalating violence in the south. Marco Rubio says he hopes to provide updates soon on the situation. Turkey has condemned the airstrikes in Damascus, calling them a sabotage of Syria's efforts to restore peace, stability and security in the region. Tensions remain high as civilians caught in the crossfire brace for what may come next. We're now once again joined by Professor Imbar to discuss this in further detail. I first of all want to start on the United States response and the possibility and what possible reaction they might have to this, Professor Imbar, as Donald Trump, not even a month ago, lifted sanctions on Syria to say, quote unquote, give them a chance at greatness. What do you think is going to be the United States' reaction to this kind of hostility that is now escalating? We've seen the US envoy for Syria react and say, and asking both sides to step back in their conflict. What are your thoughts in how President Trump and the United States will respond to this escalating violence?
I think that the United States decision to cancel the sanctions on Syria were premature. I think it would have been better to test this regime for a while, if it indeed is a peace-loving regime, and if it doesn't use jihadists at its disposal to create havoc in the areas populated primarily by minorities such as the Kurds or the Druze in Syria, and to restrain some of those Islamic impulses that are very intolerant of minorities. This, I think, we should have waited to see the regime act in a more responsible manner. Unfortunately, it was not done, but it's not too late to make sure that new regimes that wants to get close to the West to prove that it is a responsible regime and is not using the words of democracy in order to butcher the minorities in Syria.
Professor Imbar, there's been some condemnation from Israeli officials in condemning the attacks on the Druze community and other minorities as murder and pogroms. What specific evidence is there of this, of Syrian state complicity here?
I think that, of course, I'm not privy to intelligence, Israeli intelligence, but think tanks in southern Syria, I don't think the jihadists have control, no militias have control of tanks. The tanks are the tanks of the regime. And he doesn't claim they were kidnapped by militias. So it's quite clear that this is a governmental action that cannot be tolerated. To send tanks into a city to butcher people without any concern about collateral damage. They are looking for collateral damage. The civilians are the target, just like Hamas. It's a population-centric strategy used by the regime in order to bring fear into the minority and to subdue them. This is the strategy of the government, of the Ashara government.
Yes, Professor Imbar, I'm going to address something for our viewers. We're currently running visuals right now of the Israel-Syria border fence. As you can see, the Druze community there is gathering at the barbed wire fence which separates Israel and Syria. But as we've heard previously, Benjamin Netanyahu has condemned and advised all Druze people who want to go and cross over from Israel into Syria, and he has very much spoken against that, warning of killing and kidnapping if they do cross. But as you can see, a number of Druze community members there waiting at that border fence. Professor Imbar, I want to come back to you now. Gideon Saar has said that Israel will always protect its interests in Syria. What exactly are those interests, if you don't mind telling our viewers?
I think Israel made clear its interest. It wants southern Lebanon to be demilitarized. And so there will be no danger to the Druze, and of course, no danger to Israel that borders that area. This is the Israeli clear national security interest. We don't want terrorists along our borders.
Yes. Professor Imbar, thank you very much for joining us on the program.